Okay, good day, everybody. Welcome to another Kebelin Awakening series in conjunction with Kumbukeni. My name, as always, is Ola Deledusumu. I am the co-founder of Emerging Kebelin, and we are about transforming the minds of our people and awakening the consciousness of our people who have been indoctrinated with Western. I don't know what to say, but yeah, I'll leave it there.
Western infection. It's an infection. When something is not good for your body, it's an infection. It's not an influence. So,
Yeah.
yes, the name is Nduku. I am the host on Kumbukeni. Always happy to join my brother in collaborating in this effort to counter the false narrative that Western media and the West have propagated against Africa and Africans, and telling our story from our own perspective. So, and looking forward to this conversation again with our brother, Terry Jackson.
Thanks,
It
Indigo.
is,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, sorry, Terry. Guys, as always, we have a guest. His name is Terry Jackson. He's the author of. I think I'll let you introduce yourself. Actually, I'll let Terry introduce himself. But anyway, Terry's been on our series before, so he's going to introduce himself. He has a topic for us. So once he's done the introduction, I'll let him flow with the topic, and then we'll take it from there. So as always, if you guys have any questions, any chat, any questions, or anything that you want to put in chat, please do that. Feel free. Once Terry's done his presentation, then we'll look through the chats and ask any questions that you feel like you want to ask once the presentation is done. So enjoy this and please share whatever you are. We're on Kumbukeni, we're on Emerging Akebelan on YouTube, going live. Please share this. Let's get as many people as possible. This is about transformational thinking from Terry himself is a transformation master. So you want to get tuned in. Okay, Terry.
Thank you so very much. It's an honor and a pleasure to be on your show again today. And thank you for letting me extend the topic of transformational thinking. As we've known and as we've seen, on the continent of Africa, there's a lot of things that are happening. We can look at Niger, we can look at Burkina Faso, we can look at in Senegal, and there is a movement afoot or a transformation afoot in which leaders are saying to the West, no longer are we willing to sit by, stand by under your guidance, because for 35, 40, 50 years, and for some going back to the Berlin Conference, there's been no change. You've become wealthy from the resources that exist in the Congo and other countries in Africa. And so now we are going to begin to lead ourselves without any influence from uh, the West. And so, with that, as I observe it from the West, I say, hey, that is a full transformation that's happening in these. So, how does what I wrote apply to and is applicable to what I've seen in Burkina Faso specifically? So, my topic today is dealing with transformational thinking and the five elements of transformation, and actually there's six. And so let me give you what those six elements are, and then I'll go into detail as to what to describe them so you can see, understand, and ask questions. So the following six principles of this adaptable system uh, are self-organize, that's number one; to recombine, that's number two; number three is sense and respond; number four is learn and adapt; number five is seed, select, and amplify; and six is destabilize. So when we consider what is happening in some of these countries that are now deciding to take their legacy into their own hands, this is exactly what we're seeing. Let me go more in depth into the six elements, actually. When we think about self organized, we're thinking about managing systems from the bottom up where most experience resides. So if you think about Burkina Faso, you have the general there who was raised probably by the West, trained by the West, but he began to see as a little boy up until now that all the wealth that's been extracted out of Burkina Faso has not been used for Burkina Faso's advantage. It's been used for the West's advantage. It was used for France's advantage. And as a result of that, he decided, hey, it's time to do something different. We need to transform. But the first thing we need to do is self-organize. So let's take a look at our systems. Let's begin to look at our systems from the bottom up, where we have the most experience from the people who are working them, and let's lead the people. And it also means that leaders need to learn how to influence the principles to affect individual choices rather than managing the overall system. So you have the citizens of Burkina Faso who have now joined in and said, hey, we are behind you 100%. We understand that we need to be creating our own wealth. We need to put in place economic policies, economic infrastructure that will allow us to become independent. Take all these raw materials that we're extracting and now begin the whole process of manufacturing. Let's take our gold back and not send it to France any longer, but let's create it on our own, and let's create our own banking system, which Burkina Faso is doing all of that. And see, all of these are living systems, and all adaptable living systems are self-organizing through the interactions of the agents at the bottom of the system, and that is the citizen. See, these human systems and the agents are people, and the choices of the people drive the system. See, just the opposite of self organization is controlled organization. That's what France was doing. They were controlling the organization of Burkina Faso without Burkina Faso having a choice or a say in the matter. Yet, the general came along and say, hey, we're no longer going to do that. It's like the ant, right? The queen ant, does not dictate where, when, and how other ants gather food. They just organize themselves and adapt to changing opportunities. And they understand the situation because the people of Burkina Faso are creative. So they're going to take advantage of all of their energies in coordinating a diverse set of ideas that produces far better outcomes and opportunities for themselves than what France would have done. The leader of the system is going to shift the people to managing a few simple guidelines within the system. So the first question that I'm sure he asked himself is, what is the purpose of this system that I'm creating now in Burkina Faso? And then he began to design the guidelines to meet that purpose. This empowerment is why the people, as he's decided, well, he indicated that he was willing to step down on a number of occasions. However, because he's so effective, then what has happened is the people said, no, we don't want you to step down. We want you to continue to help us with empowering us and securing our freedom. So the benefits of the first element of self-organization is flexibility. The country can grow quickly, adapt, and make changes in the environment such that they can benefit themselves. Another benefit is it is robust. Even when one or more individuals fail, the group still performs the task. Think back on an ant colony. Think back on what's been happening in Burkina Faso with all the coups that they've tried. However,
Mm.
the self-organizing system functions with little supervision. Another benefit is innovation. All of the people's abilities can be applied, not just those in the central group. Everybody has a role and responsibility in Burkina Faso for its freedom and its empowerment. And that's what they've been doing. That's why they've been working and marching
Mm.
in the streets to ensure that they never go back to where they came from under the rule of France. So everybody's being encouraged to tap into their creative energies and accelerate it, and what we call this adaptive behavior. Exploration is another benefit. So as these changes accelerate and volatility increases, because that always happens in these times, Burkina Faso is able to explore different and diverse approaches, also adding to the repertoire of responses. So everybody is making a contribution to what is happening in Burkina Faso. A piece of self-organization is extremely important. And that leads me to the second element, which is
Okay.
recombine. Are there any questions?
Yeah, there's no questions so far. I think I'll let you carry on. If you got any questions, guys, just put your questions in the chat so we can pick them up as we go. Yeah, carry on, Terry.
So the second element is to recombine. You want to proliferate connections, making the recombination of ideas quicker and more effective. So what you really want to do is toss out as many ideas as you possibly can, initially not looking for the quality of the idea, but quantities.
Mm.
Then you can go back to take a look at the quality of ideas and choose from all of those alternatives. This is what I call the law of requisite variety, and it illustrates the benefits of this. So the next point of recombining is you openly share information, because that is the key to the ideas and the perceptions that must be combined and recombined to generate better and more diverse ideas. See, this transformational thinking, as I mentioned, is an adaptive system that aggressively seeks ideas not only from the people within the system and to freely share those ideas, but from external sources. Then they want to recombine what they learn to create innovative, alternative solutions and approaches. The information is potential, and that potential can only be served by the people becoming aware of it, sharing it freely, and including it in their thinking and their creative pursuits. That is the value of this transformational system, is that all people get the opportunity to share their ideas freely. There's what I call the free zone, the free thinking zone. And as they share ideas, then they begin to vet the ideas or examine the ideas to see which ideas are most effective and continue to do that. So it opens the dialogue between all people. See, recombination is the primary source of innovation. With self-organizing approach, the recombination of ideas and perceptions are enhanced, thereby creating an environment conducive to survival, which Burkina Faso has been surviving, and the success is more rapidly in a transforming world. This
Okay.
approach serves to tear down the traditional internal and external walls that divide the people and the systems and create a new mindset, a transformed mindset for all the people in the country. As I talk about the benefits of
Mm.
recombination, one, sharing ideas creates more rapid and original innovation, which is further increased by more sharing. Two, it increases the diversity of ideas, generating greater response repertoire of possible responses to ever changing circumstances of converging thoughts and experiences. Three, the recombination helps people to grow personally by exposing them to new and original ideas, which will further increase the potential of the group by enhancing the potential of each individual. So, as you talk about individuals and personal development, this transformational system, it's embedded in that. And what Burkina Faso is doing is the exact same thing. They're giving people the opportunity to speak for themselves that they never had before, not having to worry about any repercussions from France. So the third element is a sense and respond. And so The networks involved in sense and responding make real-time information available and very cheap. Person to people, person to person communication, real time. And the senses help you to filter and act on new information and even abandoning forecasting altogether. So there's no need to forecast what we're going to do 3, 5 years from now. Sensing and responding also equips your system to sense the transformation and to respond immediately, accurately, and appropriately. See, the capability to sense and respond is fundamental to anything that's alive. Think about yourself. Something happens, you sense something, and you respond to it. You make an adaptation immediately. Imagine if you were bitten by a predator and you felt no pain. Think about that. It's far better to sense a snake before it strikes than after it strikes. See, the sunflower is so called because it senses the location of the sun and it responds to it by following its movement across the sky and benefits from the extra solar energy available to it. Now, while in today's global environment, this can apply to the use of new and emerging technological breakthroughs. The same principle applies to our most valuable resources, our people. And so Burkina Faso is sensing and responding each and every minute of the day, the transformations that are happening internally as well as externally based upon how they have chosen to liberate themselves. So we need to be able to adopt a sense and respond culture in this transformational and adaptive system, and it enables you to do so. The more tuned in we are to the needs of our people, and the more sensitive we are to the users of the system, the more rapid and appropriate our responses can be to transformation and change.
Okay, Terry, can I just pick you up on that one there? You know, talking about ascension and response. You're saying Burkina Faso is responding to that, Mali is responding to that, Niger is responding to that. We have 54 African nations on the continent.
Yes.
How do you see the others responding to that? Because I don't seem to see a shift there at all. Because
That's a great question.
they're still following the gatekeeping systems, basically, which keeps them shackled. Whereas Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger are radically thinking, you know what, enough is enough. So as you're sensing the change in the air, which is there, we can all see there's a wave change in Africa right now, but the others are not tapping into that.
That's a great question, and I'm going to give you an example. I like to say that the pain is not excruciating enough. Those who are at the top are continuing to benefit from those who lead them from the West. They're continuing to benefit from their own selfishness, not understanding they should be doing what is for the greater good of all. But their selfish ways and their ways of making themselves wealthier stands in front of liberating a people. There's some fear that exists because they don't know where they would be or what position they would have if this transformation occurred in their particular country. You know, I remember hearing this guy tell a little joke, and he said he was a mailman and he delivered the mail every day. And as he went up on this one man's porch, this one man would be sitting in a rocking chair, and there was a dog that was always laying beside him. And the dog was always moaning, but the dog never got up. So the guy said, I want to understand why this dog is moaning. So I'm going to ask the question of the gentleman. You know, why is it every day that I come up on your porch and you're sitting in this chair and the dog is sitting there moaning? He says, well, the dog is laying on a nail, but the pain isn't excruciating enough for him to get up. So the pain is not excruciating enough for those other leaders to call for transformation in those countries. They're still getting wealthier. They're sending monies to Swiss bank accounts. They're going to London and other countries for medical treatment. They are feeling still good about themselves, not understanding the wealth that they could create from the minerals that exist within their own land if they just added some manufacturing to it, if they had some sincere economic policies that they could implement. And it should be whatever country first, Africa first, right? But the pain for them, there's no pain. So if there's no pain, there's no need to change. Let me give you another example. And I like to give the example to really understand the distinction between change and transformation, because a lot of people use change and transformation interchangeably. Well, let's consider a glass of water. Let's take that glass of water and we look at it, it's in a liquid state. But if I put it in the freezer, now it becomes a frozen state. If I take it out of the freezer and I sit it back and let it thaw, it becomes liquid again. So what I'm saying is change is reversible. Change can be reversed. Let's consider transformation. Let's look out into nature and let's take a look at the caterpillar. At some point in time in the caterpillar's lifespan, all of a sudden it goes through this messy middle in this cocoon and comes out the other end a butterfly. That butterfly never becomes a caterpillar again. That's what transformation is. And so these countries need true transformation, not change. Because you can have one leader in change who comes in and says, we're going to change things. And the next leader come in and guess what happens? He goes right back to what was. All you have to do is look at Israel. Let's look at Israel before Netanyahu came back in. Israel wasn't as aggressive or assertive, but we remember the times before when Netanyahu was there and he was aggressive and assertive. Now he's just restored the same type of mentality with even more intensity. So let's make sure that we understand a clear distinction between change and transformation.
I like that explanation because when we think of the African nations, they changed through independence, but they did not transform, which is why they're still under colonialism.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So in the sense and respond, the benefits of sensing and responding is one, it decreases the response time in all areas. It allows all the people to meet the needs of using quick ideas, effective and efficient ideas to transform the situation. It allows individually self-organized groups of people to develop their own strategies to respond to which they can create new and improved responses and share them. Three, it creates greater sensitivity of the people to their environment, which also increases their ability to respond and increases their ability to transform and survive. One of the more important elements of the 6 elements is to learn and adapt. Number 4, learn and adapt. After feedback on what happened when you sensed and responded, you learn from that experience and you incorporate it in your new repertoire of responses. So you sense, you respond, you learn, and you adapt based on the results that you received from sensing and responding. And 2, it allows you to close the feedback loop to create potential for continual adaptation. See, every new experience brings with it opportunities we refer to as adjacent possibilities. For years, many of the experts have said that if you are aware of the importance of a learning system, but you haven't taken the step further in order to become truly effective in your environment by not learning, sensing, adapting, and responding, what good does it, what good is it rather? We must take the ability to learn from sensing and responding and use it to adapt. One of the most powerful concepts and a lot of what's used in business, and the Japanese used it very effectively. It's called Kaizen, Kaizen. It means continuous, constant, incremental improvement, step by step, little by little. When we engage everybody in this constant, continuous, incremental improvement, we get every individual in every system involved in the process of transformation. They begin sensing and responding, recombining what they sense, they learn and adapt. That's the goal of this transformational adaptive system. That's the goal of Burkina Faso and any organization or country that's getting ready to go through transformation or decides that that's the route that they want to take. They want to be able to transform and be able to sustain it by using these tools. You install what is known as a 360 feedback, meaning that everybody has the opportunity to give their thoughts around what's happening, that clear communication, the sharing of ideas. Everybody knows what's going on and what's happening. The benefits of learning and adapting. It gives a greater repertoire of possible responses from all of the people or the system or the organization. Two, it provides feedback on what is sensed and responded. And three, it creates an environment of continuous incremental improvement. As we can see in Burkina Faso, we're seeing a central banking system being set up, not the Rothschilds banking system. We are seeing where they take control of their gold, um, and all of their resources. They're building manufacturing facilities now that will enable them to produce finished goods to be able to sell to the global marketplace, which will create jobs that ultimately will improve the quality of life for every citizen there. And this is what the West didn't want, don't want. And this is what some people, when you're talking about being held accountable, that's why some of the leaders who are there, they don't want to be held accountable. So they're not willing to go through this process of transformation to ensure that the greater good of all in their country um, benefits. The fifth element of transformation is seed, select, and amplify. I'll say that again. Seed, select, and amplify. And what this means is you're going to test many diverse options and you're going to reinforce the most effective ideas by implementing them first. And what this also encourages is curiosity and experimentation. So there's not a initially in this particular element, there's not a lot of planning, but it's the curiosity, the experimentation to see what is going to work best for the organization, for the country, for the society.
Sorry, can
See,
I just interject there? So in
yes,
this process, that means they're allowed to make mistakes.
absolutely.
Thank you.
That's it. That's how you learn.
Yeah,
Uh, the word fail or mistakes I don't like. What I like to say is I learned what not to do.
brilliant.
I learned
Okay.
something new. I learned something. I got a result that wasn't the result that I wanted, but I may be able to use that result down the line. But my curiosity and my experimentation drove me there. Now I see all of these different options from different perspectives, and I'm able to choose the best.
Okay, I'll let you carry on. Yeah.
Nature deals with self-organizing systems by rewarding effectiveness with the opportunity to do more, to get bigger, to breed more. This was really what Darwin called selective pressure. The most adaptive species propagate freely. For instance, let's take a look at coral reefs. Coral reefs produce and launch thousands of spores into the environment, and they trust that the natural selection process will weed out the weakest or the least adaptable. Its solution, it is solution by evolution rather than solution by design. So as we begin to build an economic foundation, what this is saying is, as we build through certain industries, we'll understand as certain industries grow, as people begin to share information, are more innovative and they're effective, certain industries will just die out and new industries will step in and take place and form new products and new services that'll be more effective for the people. See, today, what happens is, and I'm going to say this with some of the older leaders there on the continent, they rely too heavily on prediction, planning, and forecasting. That traditional budget, you know, uh, the traditional year in and year out that they serve as the president of the country.
They
Not
don't,
really.
sorry, Terry, they don't
Oh, go
even do
ahead.
it for themselves. It is the West that tells them. The West does the predicting and all that and tells them, this is what you're going to do.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so those are the types of leaders that the people have to find a way to remove, vote them out, or whatever is necessary. Or, as in Burkina Faso, someone rose up from within the ranks and decided that enough was enough. And so the benefits of seeding, selecting, and amplifying, it focuses on a greater quantity of ideas, which creates more quality. Two, it reduces the tendency to plan, which is inflexible, and increases intuitive responses and diverse responses. It allows people to be involved in the creation and the development of new ideas. And I like to say that people participate in what they help create. And last is destabilize. And I thought about this and I thought about putting it
Be-
first because go ahead.
Before you move on to destabilize, and I'm glad because I had deconstruct, so let me correct that in my notes. Destabilize. Under seed, select, and amplify, you mentioned focusing on greater quantity of ideas, which makes it more qualitative. This is something that we don't realize the power of because we have been curated to focus so much on individuality and to think that if we include others in the process, it's going to be taken from us instead of seeing strength in including others. So what you're saying is a good leader of anything, nation or otherwise, brings in all the forget about wise, right? Because we tend to connect wisdom with PhDs and doctor this and doctor that, but all members of community who have something to share so that he has perspective from all over. And you're saying that's a better way to lead because it gives you a bigger opportunity to have a qualitative decision once you make the decision.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Talk more about that because I think it's really essential in our community to nurture that mindset.
I like to say, um, lead from behind. You give the people the opportunity to create their own environment, manage their own environment, but you're leading them without them knowing that they're being led. You're helping to shape the environment, but you're not looking to control the environment, right? Again, people participate in what they help create. So if I help create a system or a government or a country that's beneficial to me, beneficial to my family, and I look around and I understand that it's about community, it's about the village, as we say, and I understand that, and I understand that there's enough for everybody here, um, then guess what? As a leader, we see it. We see what's happening in Burkina Faso. As a leader, I really don't have to get involved with the people as they create these, I'm going to call, lack of a better word, cells around industry, technology, gold, the whole mining piece, the whole manufacturing piece, right? Because people see what the benefits are going to be. My economy is going to improve. My family is going to be employed. We're going to be able to eat. We're going to have a place to stay. And so, as I see this, and I have the ability to contribute to this through my ideas, I understand that I'm a valuable part of what's going on within society, this society, and what's going on within this government or this organization. See, everybody voice matters, but what the West is trying to do is silence voices. That's why we have the challenge we have in this country, the United States, around diversity, equity, inclusion. That's why we have the challenge around not teaching true world African American history. And it's interesting to me that if I'm a human being, there's nothing but diversity that I see all every day. So how can I deny something that is different from me? Because that's all diversity means. It's different from me, right? How can I deny equity, and how can I deny inclusion? It's impossible to do because we depend on another human being or other human beings for everything we do. If we have a car and I need gasoline, I'm going to get gasoline or petrol, right? To put in my car. When I think about all that it took to get that gasoline or petrol to the station, all these human beings that I didn't know who were responsible for me going and making that purchase. If I'm flying from one country to the other on an airplane, I don't know the mechanics. I don't know the guys who fill the gasoline. I don't know, the pilot personally. I don't know the stewardesses. I don't know the people who worked at uh, the airplane manufacturer that created it. But all of these people were diverse people. They were inclusive people who built this vehicle, and I'm speaking of the airplane that transported me. It's difficult for me to understand that we don't think about all of everyone that's involved in everything that we do on a day-to-day basis that impacts our lives. So we actually live in diversity, equity, inclusion on a daily basis that you can't deny, that a group of people decided that they don't want to accept, but they live in the same reality that I live in.
We in other words, we are not consciously living in diversity and inclusion. We're choosing to not consciously, because we're not. I go to the petrol station, the gas station rather, and I know if you ask me the question, I will be able to answer to you, Dr. Jackson, that, oh, if you ask me, where do you think the petrol came from? So I'll give you all the steps and that there were human beings involved. But we get so caught up in, I'm just trying to live my life. I just want to get home and cook for my kids, that we don't stop to think the strawberries that I just bought. And also not just to think, but to appreciate the people who played a part in having them there for you. And the only time that we ever stopped to think is when we had COVID and we had lack.
I agree with you. We have a challenge being human to other human beings. We have a challenge treating other human beings humanely. Um, and until we get back to that, we're always going to have challenges. One of the things that I also say is for Al Boulan to become what it was as a leader in the world, it's going to take the Africans in the diaspora connecting with the Africans on the continent to ensure that it happens, bringing our skill sets from all the universities that we've been to, bringing our skill sets from, having worked in quote unquote corporate America. Um, we can't prosper globally until that connection happens. And so, of course, there are people there on the continent who don't want it to happen because they benefit from it not happening. But it's going to happen. Nature is in charge, right?
Mm,
And so
I agree.
it's going to happen, and we see it happening.
Yeah.
We see it happening now. Let's just think about this conversation. Let's think about this connection.
Yeah.
I think this connection came through LinkedIn, and we began communicating, and all of a sudden, you asked me to be on the first show, and now I'm on the second show, and we still communicate. I know there are certain things that I may read or look at, and I share with you on your WhatsApp, and you do the same with me. And so with that communication is happening, that familiarity is occurring. So that self uh, organizing is beginning in the whole system. We're walking through it without us knowing that we're walking through it. And we're destabilizing myths and characteristics and stories that we've been told based upon our indoctrination on each other. All of that's moving to the wayside. And we understand. And I told someone the other day, and I'm going to say it this way now. I said it this way the other day, and it was, the most important thing to me is my blackness. So let me say the most important thing to me is my melanin. And I understand that I connect across the globe with other heavily melanated people.
Absolutely.
Now I will continue. The last is destabilize, and I know you had it down as deconstruction, which is the same thing. You know, the rate of environmental transformation demands internal instability for survival. And I said it demands internal instability for survival. Disrupt the static elements in the system in
Say that
order.
again. Say that again, real slow, please. That sentence. The
the
rate.
rate the rate of environmental transformation demands internal instability for survival.
Thank you.
And
So
yes, go ahead.
I
Go right ahead.
presume so that kind of destabilization is what's happening in Niger,
It's the
Mali,
pain. It's the
yeah,
pain that we
Mali,
feel.
and Burkina Faso right now. And I'll let you carry on, sir.
Oh yes, and it is the pain. And it requires that in order to continue to move forward and to go to next levels. And you must disrupt the static elements in the system in order that they be transformed. Now, when you talk about static elements, you're talking about the other presidents of other countries that are static, status quo. If you want to call it that, that's what it is, the status quo.
We're also talking about, and I'm going to watch that I don't say anything. I was about to use the C word. We're also talking about the gatekeepers, right? I was about to
Yes,
use Malcolm X's C word. So, but
yes.
we're also talking about the gatekeepers.
Yeah, I think gatekeeper is a better word because we can get censored for saying that because that happened in the UK recently. So yeah,
Yeah.
Yep, the gatekeepers. You have to remove the gatekeepers. See, remember this, nothing in nature is static. Everything in nature is transforming all the time. And chaos is a part of the natural world. What we have to do with chaos is understand and see the patterns so that we'll know which way chaos is going. Chaos in fact, is an integral part of the natural process. So I like to ask people, how do you make chaos your friend? And you
But
do so by understanding the patterns.
Dr. Jackson, like, please sit with that one for a minute, because from reading and sitting with elders and having also had a little taste of our culture growing up, because I spent a lot of time with my grandmother and elders, we understand that Africans, and we don't realize that it is Western culture that makes it seem like chaos is abnormal and forces us to detach. And by that, we are actually failing ourselves, because chaos is necessary for growth. But
Yes, it is.
please say more about that.
Chaos is necessary for growth. Chaos causes pain. And we know that pain causes, I got to find a new way to do something or a new way to handle something, because this approach, given the pain that I have, is insurmountable.
Mhm.
So I need this chaos. I need this chaos to propel me forward. I
You know
need this
what? Sorry,
chaos.
sorry,
Yes.
Terry. I'm just going to interject. Based on what Nduku is saying, I'm just looking at Nigeria. Nigeria at the moment is trying to fit into a Western system.
Mhm.
They're trying so hard to basically bring everybody in line.
Mhm.
But the only thing that makes Nigeria function well is chaos.
Yes.
It's something that we go through all the time. But they're trying to bring everybody in line, and they're failing. Anyway, yeah, I was just gonna say that because when I'm there, I see chaos everywhere. But when things are chaotic, they think things are not normal. But that's what we're used to.
You've seen it in Nigeria, you've seen it in other parts of Africa. And to be very honest with you, the Africans in the diaspora, and more specifically, Africans in the United States, we it's been chaos since you step foot on the land. It's been pure chaos, but we have thrived and survived in chaos. And so they continue to try to implement more chaos
Mhm.
into the process. However, what I see happening is more and more people galvanizing and mobilizing against the chaos and recognizing the patterns and choosing to do something different, right? And so, chaos is your friend. And you just got to be able to understand what the patterns are in the chaos to move forward. So, what destabilization is crucial, and destabilization allows for greater adaptability, because the more you're destabilized or you're deconstructed, the more you have to adapt, which means you have to be more creative, more innovative. You need more ideas. You intensify your thoughts around transformation and your thoughts around what it really takes, to be liberated as an individual or as an organization or as a government.
I have a question, Dr. Jackson. Even as Oladele mentions Nigeria, something that we have, at least we need some clarity on. My take is, without the understanding, without recognizing the patterns of chaos and choosing to do something different, that chaos will soon consume you. And I feel that that's where we are, because there's a lot of chaos in Africa right now, Nitsi Ubuntu, but we're not recognizing it, and we're not choosing to do something different. We are going along to get along. And the fear and the reality is that the chaos will consume us. And I feel that, like, that's what's going on in Nigeria.
That what they call it, the black crude, right?
Mhm.
The oil,
Mhm.
all of the money that's been generated from that, and all of the people in the status quo that's benefited from it, and all of the Western oil companies that's been telling Nigeria what they can do and just giving them crumbs of revenue or income, crumbs of wealth, given that black crude. Because I know that the oil companies of the world are dictating what's happening in Nigeria,
Yep.
because they're they make them feel comfortable, and comfort has always been the enemy. That's why chaos is the friend.
Hey.
Yeah, comfort is always the enemy, because comfort is the status quo. But those who are getting fat and happy at the top, that's why they don't want coups to happen or destabilization to happen, right? because they're so comfortable in their wealth. And again, when you understand that what you're supposed to be doing is for the greater good of the people, not the greater good of yourself, but the greater good of the people, then you benefit more than being someone that's, a selfish or trying to maintain um, rulership over a group of people whose time has come. That's what happened in Burkina Faso. Their time came. Someone grew up in the ranks and they saw it and they made a move, and that's going to happen because, again, nature is in charge. In destabilization, just the introduction of a little chaos to a system shakes it up.
Mhm.
It eliminates complacency and it creates new opportunity. It is like having a crisis in your life, taking remedial or affirmative action to correct it, and then finding that you are stronger because of it. And that's what Burkina Faso is realizing. Hey, after all of those years, we now decided to take over our own destiny, and we are stronger because of it. We have survived what 8 or 9, maybe 10 coups of those who were trying to continue to rule us, trying to make a comeback, and they have not been successful. And so this is what this destabilization does for a system. It is one guideline that most leaders find most discomforting, is that it creates discomfort. And most leaders don't like discomfort. So how much destabilization is enough? How much is too much?
Mhm.
That differs, right? No one has the answer that fits all the situations. But if you get all the people involved, you can come up with the solutions.
Yes.
But what I can say is the introduction of destabilization is a healthy step for transformation in a system. And here are the benefits of it. The benefits of destabilization is it produces unpredictable results and requires innovative solution. It can produce ideas that would otherwise not be considered. And 3, and this is happening in Burkina Faso, it's igniting passion and it leads people into new experiences and new lives in which they subsequently recombine and share with others.
Wow.
So, where do we go from here? That's a great question.
Great question. Great question. Where do we go from
You
here?
know,
I like to.
what have you learned? And understand that the future is really of your own creation, personally, professionally, governmentally, and in these 3 areas, this is where all the improvement can be made,
Mm.
personally, collectively. You got to choose the realities that are better than the ones you currently have. And your current thinking is what got you there, but transformational thinking can take you where you want to be. If you want a better future than your present, then you need to apply different thinking, transformational thinking.
I'm shaking my head because this is what I have been going through in the last 3 years. And every time I approach people to join me in implementing the solutions, they tell me, "Oh, Nduko, you're talking about a utopia. It's not possible. You're talking about a utopia. It's not possible." Yet you're saying that it is that utopia that we need to actually sit and indulge and find the solution in.
Absolutely. Because I can tell you, if you go to South Africa, there's a group of people who lived in utopia for a long time.
Tell them, please.
If you go to the UK, there's a group of people that's living in utopia right now because they consider that. If you come to the United States, there's a group of people who live in their own utopia that they build every day, and they're trying to protect it every day. So it is possible to live in utopia.
You know what? As you're speaking, and I have teenagers, I'm thinking, does Dr. Jackson speak to in high schools? You need to, this needs to be taught in every school, because I believe this is a way, I mean, bear with me because I get frustrated when to me it's so clear, but I look at the people around me and they're making it so difficult. They don't get it.
Maybe they don't
This,
want to get it.
right? But this type of information and this type of understanding, more than just information, because you could speak and inform people, but they don't understand. This type of understanding is going to take away teenage suicides, is going to take away bullying, it's going to take away inferiority complex, which and what's it called, the lack of self-esteem, which makes our teenagers get into troublesome solutions, thinking they're finding solutions. This type of understanding brings peace, mental
I,
peace, that is.
I agree. Mental and spiritual peace. Mental and spiritual peace. Because it is the true understanding of what they don't want us to understand, and that is nature and how we interact with nature on a day-to-day basis, right? And so they remove us from all of that spirituality around nature, because that's where you find self.
Exactly.
See, I could, as we were talking before we came on, I can take this system and I can apply it across any corporation in the world,
Mm.
right? I can make it applicable because I understand the foundations of what every organization is seeking to do. Every challenge that any organization has in this world ties to three things: time,
Mhm.
team, and money. We call money profit in the corporate world, right? We
Mhm.
call it profit. But time, team, and money. So you're dealing with human beings, the interaction of how people work, when they work, why they work, the money that the organization is making, the money that the people are making, and team. How do we work together as human beings to further the cause? Time, team, and money. You look at nature and how nature works.
Yeah.
There's no money really, but you think of the fruit for the trees, right? And the money could be anything that's green that falls on the ground that re-nourishes the ground, that
Yeah.
re-nourishes the earth. That could be
Yeah.
considered the money. And the time that it takes for the evolution to happen, right? And so it's applicable across, and these are just general human principles that need to be taught on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
And not just taught, but lived.
Yeah.
Mm.
As you say this, because as you say this, I'm thinking to myself, we need to start going to the forest, not to see how we can exploit it, but to learn from it. And it takes me back to the book, The Dedan Kimathi Papers, is a compilation of letters from the Kenya Land and Freedom Army, the Mau Mau warriors, that was put together by Mainawa Kenyati. But in there, he speaks, in their own letters, they speak of how they went to the forest to learn,
Yes.
to understand the plants, to understand how the plants were working with each other. In one of the stories, one of the warriors is telling a story of how, as they're running from the British and trying to find safe ground, they encounter two rhinos. But because of the relationship they had with nature, they understand that they are in the rhino's home place, and they don't kill they could have killed the rhinos, but they find another path so that they can let the rhinos be. So that sense of being with nature is completely lost from us. And in fact, when you propose that we return to it, you're called a freak.
I'm a big sports fan. And so as I look at sports, basketball, football, and you see these guys make these great moves, these great catches, these great plays. It bothers me to no end to hear the sportscaster say he's a freak of nature. He's not a freak of nature. She's not a freak of nature. They've developed their skill that they have through practice and hard work. The creator, whoever you believe in, gifted them with certain assets, physical assets, that they could do certain things. And all of us have certain physical as well as cognitive assets that we can utilize that no one else can utilize. And so none of us are freaks of nature. We're just utilizing a skill set and assets that we've been given to the optimal ability. So I hate to hear the word, I hate to hear the phrase freak of
Freak of
nature.
nature.
I hate to hear freak of nature. Because if that's the case, then we all are freaks of nature.
Because we're not aligned.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. So it bothers me to know and to hear that. And normally I'm hearing someone of a different 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 perspective and a different persuasion complexion that uses this, because we've seen this guy dunk the basketball or run a touchdown, and but they forget about all the preparation and all of the training, and as you prepare the body and train the body, you're also training the mind and the brain. And oftentimes what's happening is when we're training, we're tapping into something within us we didn't know was there. I like to ask young guys who like sports and they play basketball and they tell me this, I hate mathematics. I said, you hate mathematics? I say, do you play basketball? Yes. So when you're dribbling the ball down the court and you decide you're going to take a jump shot, did you ever consider that is a mathematical equation that your brain has already made? You have to go at a particular angle. You shoot at a particular angle. You're running at a particular speed, and your brain is making all of those calculations without you knowing it. The challenge is they're not giving you this mathematical information in a way that you can understand what you're doing. You're doing algebra, you're doing geometry, you're doing calculus. All of that is being calculated while you're on the court playing or while you're on the field running. You just haven't been taught this. When you wake up in the morning and you get out of bed and you put your feet down at a particular angle so that you can stand up, that's all mathematics. We're the mother and the father of mathematics. So we should never say, I don't like it. You don't like it because it hasn't been given to you in such a way that you understand what it is.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Which goes back to, we need to form our own schools where you can teach mathematics in this way that people can relate to it in their daily lives. Because that's what matters. It doesn't matter for you to teach me math so that some corporate CEO can see me as a viable person to hire. It matters that I am able to use the math to survive and to contribute to the survival of others.
Yes, I agree. It's applicable. You have to understand the applicability on a day-to-day basis.
Okay. Terry, we got to that stage. As you're talking, go on. Look, what do you want to say, Nico?
I do have I didn't want to take him away from, as long as he's done with his presentation. I wanted Dr. Jackson to continue with the presentation and then ask him this question, because it is related, but it's not related.
Go right ahead, ask the question.
So recently, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the channel African Stream. It's an African-centered channel that that broadcasts on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook.
Okay.
And Secretary Blinken recently came out and put out a speech an announcement, I should say, claiming or accusing them of being funded by Russians. Which is usually the go-to accusation when it comes to Black liberation organizations, right? Connect them to Russians and everyone will detach as if they are the plague, which we fall for, and it has worked. And so how do we use this moment to transform? This moment where we are realizing that YouTube is not the place to be if we're going to be talking the way we are talking, if we're going to have liberation. How, or whether it's the place to be or not, we cannot truly use it as a venue to liberate ourselves, to go back to reconnecting with nature. So how do we transform?
That is an excellent question.
And I'll add to that, Terry. It's frustrating. You see my posts,
Yes.
and I have to use AI sometimes just to get the tone right. And sometimes
to get an acceptable tone, right?
Yeah,
An acceptable tone.
and AI now would tell me that my posts are inappropriate. So the control's already there. So how do we, like Unduku said, how do we actually, because we use YouTube, we use LinkedIn, which set,
Same thing.
you're a click away from being censored. I've been censored about 2 or 3 times on here. So we're a click away from being censored because obviously, like African Stream is doing, we're sharing our own stories through so that we can actually see what's going on. Because most Africans do not know. And it's been very addictive because a lot of my posts I go there to look for stuff. So that's basically creating the stories, our own narratives, devoid of the Western influence. And now that we're doing that, they're not comfortable with us telling our own stories. Obviously, they're trying to bring us down. So like she said, where do we go?
And I'm going to make it even more complex. These are systems that have been set up by people who don't understand our cultures and our languages. I say that because the other day I was giving my Friday lecture, and I used the word jigger, Jigger, to speak of a bug, bug, an insect in Africa that gets in your toes. And just using the word jigger by itself, it was blocked. So I had to say the bag jigger, because those who are sitting to create these systems do not understand our culture, do not understand our languages. So how do we transform, Dr. Jackson? How do we transform so that we can do the work?
And I'll go back and say this: they don't want to understand.
No, they don't.
Because at the end of the day, it's about maintaining the status quo, right? It's not about empowering another group of people, but that is going to happen regardless. We already know that, right? Nature's in charge. So it comes back to, I'm going to call it economics, and that means that it comes back to developing your own. We have to get those among us who have the resources to help us. For those of us who have the resources, we have to get them to understand the need to develop our own systems, our own platforms, our own manufacturing. Burkina Faso is an excellent example. With the gold, with the banking, they're controlling the dissemination of information. Within Burkina Faso has to be a technological aspect of it in which they begin to understand the building of these platforms that will enable their people to share messages, not letting certain people from companies from around the world go and influence how they build, but they need to build. For instance, I read a story, and I'm sure both of you read a story, where there was a 23-year-old technology genius in Nigeria that turned Bill Gates down. And he said he wants to build his own. He's probably at the age of 23 or 24, wherever he is now, he'd probably realized what the general in Burkina Faso realized. I'm seeing all these people coming over, utilizing all of our assets, but we're not getting anything from it other than a job, right? I'm a highly paid employee. But in order for me really to liberate my people, what I need to do is ownership. I need to build the platform. And with building the platform, I can dictate the content on the platform and how we message to the people. Because when you say control the narrative, we have to understand that every narrative is a spin, whether it's a spin favorable to us or a spin favorable to someone else. So we have to control the content so we know what the spin is. We know exactly what we want to produce. We know exactly what we want the results. And the only way to do that is ownership of your own platforms. And there's enough money throughout the continent of Africa to rule all the platforms of media. The question is, how do you get through to the people who have the resources for them to understand? Because
Okay, Terry,
they're
I'd
living a
like you to
status quo life.
Terry, I'd like you to answer that question that you asked because I was going to ask that.
But
Please.
as you answer it, please break this down in the way that you gave us, right? The six elements of transformation, beginning with self-organized, recombine, sense and respond, learn and adapt, seed, select and amplify, and destabilize. How are we going to on this particular subject?
That is awesome. Awesome question. Self-organize. As we talked about self-organizing, what we really talked about is managing the system from the bottom up where the experience resides. For instance, the 23-year-old. Not only is he a techie, but I'm sure he knows a ton of techies around him in Nigeria.
Mm,
So what they begin to do is self-organize themselves to create the necessary platforms to do everything that we're talking about, from finance and banking to housing to manufacturing to healthcare, because technology plays a major role in of all industries. So now, if I'm a technologist and I'm building these technology platforms, I can build it around health. I can go into the healthcare systems and I can begin to build so that all have access to health, all have access to a hospital. I can do so. I can even set it up so that you can see the doctor online on your cell phone. You can have a doctor's appointment on your cell phone. That can be done. So we can begin to self-organize around industry that impacts every aspect of your life. Again, housing, finance, education, manufacturing, farming. That's self-organization. As you move from self to from that self organizing to recombine, then what you're doing is you're getting these ideas as quickly as you possibly can,
mm,
and you're beginning to implement them, and you're showing the people with the finances, what the return is going to be over a specific period of time, so that everyone benefits. Because everybody wants to know, okay, if I'm contributing some money to this cause, you know what is the outcome going to be? How quickly will people have access to all of this? And again, getting the people to understand, who have the resources, that Africa is the greatest and the wealthiest continent on earth, and you can control your own destiny. As a matter of fact, the world depends on Africa. Africa doesn't depend on the world. So with that recombination and the self-organization and getting those ideas done quickly, and people focused and working on these ideas, you can make it happen. Because the more people you get working on the ideas, the more people you get involved in the process, it lifts the entire culture of Africa. It lifts the entire wealth of Africa, not only from a mineral perspective, but from a human perspective. So now you're getting all these ideas and you begin to sense and to respond. You begin to see the walls come up on hospitals, manufacturing facilities, banks, gold. Now, as they begin to operate, you say, okay, we can do this a little bit more effective. So you take the process and you tweak it. Or we bring new ideas into the process, because we're bringing new people with new ideas and new perspectives, because now that it's up and running, it's a little bit different than we anticipated it being. So now I want to give you some ideas about what it should be, based upon what we thought it should be now that it's operating. So we allow the people again to participate in the process. So along the same time, we're sensing and responding. Remember, we're also learning and adapting. We're finding out who the true leaders are, who are looking forward for a new future, and we're finding out for those who are stuck in the past. And we're understanding who needs to be removed. We're understanding which industry is best for us, given given the resources that we have under the ground in our country. Some have gold, some have diamonds, some have cobalt, some have coltan. Where do we receive the most revenue from and income, and then how are we sharing it amongst the people when we make it? because you got to share with the people. If you don't share with the people, you're going to go back to the old system, right? It won't be transformed. And as you're sensing and responding, you're seeding, you're selecting, and you're amplifying. So seeding means you're reinvesting in those industries where you're getting the most effective and the highest return. So as you seed and reinvest, you're also selecting, because you're selecting those industries that's best for you. And you're amplifying those industries by growing them. You're amplifying the people by growing them. You're seeding in the people by investing in the people, by educating the people, giving them skills that they can use in the workplace. And you're selecting all the people so that everybody has some skills so they can continue to amplify not only themselves, but the country and the industries in the country. And finally, when you want to talk about destabilize, you've destabilized not only the old government, but you're continuing to destabilize yourself, because as you look for continuous improvement, you're continuing to look at to how to do things better. So that means that old processes go by the wayside, old industries go by the wayside. You give it an interjection of chaos so that you can have new, innovative, and creative ideas.
Oh, now that you've set the stage for us, and thank you very much for setting that stage. First of all, I encourage everyone to sit with this session again without the interruption of we are in a community where we are trying to navigate you're listening, you're trying to watch everything just in a quiet space. Listen to this again. I'm going to be doing it myself. But if you actually want to build change for us, please listen to this again. But also, I will say that we are planning, myself, the Imagine Al-Keblan, Bongi Ubuntu, and we're going to be inviting other One Ubuntu organizations. So for those organizations we haven't reached out to, this is your opportunity to reach out to us. You're welcome. For us to do exactly what Terry Jackson is telling us. In December 15th to the 17th, it's going to be a virtual conference. For us to come together, we will have self-organized between now and then, for us to come together and give a quantity of ideas and use, first of all, ourselves, the multitudes of us, to come together and together analyze the issues, the barriers, the walls, and then give a quantity of ideas so that we can have a quality of solutions to walk away with and implement. So I am reaching out to all of you to show up for that virtual conference. We will start putting out the announcements soon, so that, because again, this is not about popularity. This is not about growing likes. This is not about having followership. This is not about being famous. This is about liberating ourselves. This is about finding solutions, because I, for one, the pain is too much for me. I'm tired of seeing announcements about police shootings, attacks on Black people. I am tired. I am tired on seeing a society where we don't value each other, because as much as we think that it's okay to walk around in this society, it is eating up on those of us who are aware, those of us who have realized that we cannot go along to get along. It's eating up on us. This is why we have an increase in mental instability. So at least we, a group of us, are coming together. I don't know who else is. And if anyone else is and they're hearing this, join with us and see how we can all come together for this virtual conference, so that we can analyze, we can give ideas, and we can find solutions, and we can start implementing them.
And I'm going to give you 5 questions around that.
Thank you.
Write these down, please. The first question is, where do we want to be? That's the first question. Where do we want to be? The second question is, how will we know when we achieve our outcomes?
Okay.
The third question is, where are we right now? And it's in this order. The
Okay.
fourth question is, how do we get there from here?
All right. 4. Yep.
And the last question is, what is changing in our future environment that will affect us?
That will affect us.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, Trey, for those 5 questions. So, Nduku, obviously, yeah, we're planning. Terry, I'm going to say on this note, actually, you're invited.
Yes,
Yeah.
I was about to say, in fact, forget about you're invited.
Yeah, you're going to be part of, you're going to be part of this. So, yeah.
Yes,
Let's put it out there.
We're going to invite you to join us for that. But also, oh goodness, as you were speaking, I lost my train of thought. Go on, it will come back to me. Go on.
Okay. Transformational thinking. You're talking about
sorry, it came. Let me not let it go. So in preparation, we actually are already taking action on something that is very urgent. Food security is a big problem right now. And in order to manage this, and because we understand that success is inspiring, that we have to show you that we're actually doing something so that you can be inspired, because we live in a world of where you're being manipulated and used, and you've been given hope. It's been ripped out of your feet, from under your feet. So we are currently, the project that we're working on as we prepare for the virtual conference is we are going to be building a seed bank in Nigeria with a farmer caller who has been with us. So if you have the resources, if you have the funds, if you have the knowledge of how to build a good seed bank, please reach out to myself and Oladile. That is the project we are starting now. We are literally, Farmer Kola has an architect putting the design together. He's putting together the project plan and budget, and this will be the first thing that we do, a 40 by 20 seed bank in Nigeria, in Oyo State.
Yeah, just to reiterate that, Imagine a Kebalan is basically an Mbongi, what's the, you say that Mbongi, organization, we're working together.
Mbongi Ubuntu. Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're working together. And one of the reasons why we put this organization together and put all these things together is basically for us to do something, because we're sick and tired of complaining. Like Unduku said, I'm sick and tired of seeing things that we should be doing, and all we do is play along to get along. I'm frustrated. I'm just sick and tired of it all the time, because at the end of it, we don't seem to be moving. So in order for us to get to where we need to get to, we need to be our own solutions. We know what's going on in Africa right now. You see BG, not to mention his name, just visited Nigeria recently.
Okay? Listen, my brother, in order to have our people not step on the snake and get bitten by it, you have to describe the snake exactly how it looks like. So name the name and describe the person so that they know who you're talking of.
Okay, I'm talking about the philanthrocapitalist himself, Bill Gates. Been to Nigeria recently, met with the policy makers, met with the influencers. Even on this LinkedIn, I've had some policy makers in government with him. I basically reached out to these people. And this is a challenge we're facing. So in order for us to actually get away from that and stop being frustrated, that's why seed bank, food security, and because of the dangers of GMO and the diseases that's going to happen, because we already see what's happening in America, we see what's happening in the UK, Africa. If the effects of that thing hits us, and it's already happening in South Africa right now anyway, and Zimbabwe, but the mass effect of Africans, God help, we don't know what's going to happen to us, but it's going to really mess us up big time. And they're pushing whatever way they can through policy making. As you see in Kenya, they can't even share seeds anymore in Kenya. So they are doing everything they can to basically get us. And this is why we're saying, as Africans, it's about time we create our own solutions. That's why seed bank, I think food security, food sovereignty is very important, because if we lose our indigenous seeds and we have to keep going to these people to buy seeds, that basically puts us under their thumb, because obviously GMO seeds you cannot replant anymore. Kola told us how people who've planted these seeds and cannot replant these seeds anymore, how they become suicidal, how they've lost the money. So we are doing these things to make a change. So guys, I post a lot, Unduku talks a lot. Well, we're not about talking. It's not just about talking. Obviously, we're creating the awareness, but also we're about finding solutions to do something. So it might not be with us. It might be amongst yourselves. We need to get away from the way the West doing things, the Western way of doing things, the education, everything that you've taught is Western. For Africans, it's not a solution. It basically moves you away from who you are as an African person. If you think you got the PhD, sorry, I know you got a PhD, but at least you're using yours for the help of others. But we have so many letters behind people's names, and they use that titles to define themselves. They find value in those titles. But if your Africa is not working, what's the point? So that's basically what we've got Terry here today. We're about transformational thinking. Transformational thinking means change. It's not about change, it's about the transformation behind the change.
That's actually a good segue, Oladele, yeah. Where please, Dr. Jackson, make it very clear what transformation means that is not change, please.
I'll use the example again. I think sometimes people learn better with the example, and I use the example of water in a glass and sitting on a table, and it's in a liquid state. You put it in the freezer and it freezes, so it changes state. It becomes frozen. But if I take it out of the freezer and I sit it on the table, it thaws out. So it becomes liquid. That's change. So that means change can be reversed. We're not looking for reverse. When we're talking about transformation, we're looking about making a
pancakes with that water.
Yes, we're talking about going in a direction that's a journey that where you never reach a destination, you continue moving, but you continue improving at the same time. See, the caterpillar, just when the caterpillar thought its life was over, it became a butterfly. Meaning that it transformed from one being to a totally new being. And that's what we're talking about. Understanding the messy middle is a part of what that whole 6 elements, the self-organization, the destabilization, right? The learn and adapt, the seed, select and amplify. That's the messy middle. Every organization, every country has to go through that in order to transform, because that's going to be the foundation and the fundamentals of what keeps the transformation sustainable and keeps it moving forward. Because you're going to continue to challenge the status quo. Status quo doesn't exist in transformation. Static elements don't exist in transformation. Comfort doesn't exist in transformation. It's what is for the good of the people. And what might be good for you today might not be good for you 5 minutes from now. But we understand, we analyze, and we keep moving. We never go back. That's transformation.
Thank you.
Becoming a new being, a new entity. Have you ever seen a friend? Have you ever had a friend that you knew him maybe 10 years ago, and you run into them in 10 years and you see them and the exterior looks the same?
Mm-hmm.
But when you have a conversation with them, you're like, wow, this is not the same person that I knew 10 years ago. That was a transformation. However it went, whichever way it went, that was a transformation. I have friends on both the good and the not so good that I've seen, and I'm like, that's not the person I knew 10 years ago. A transformation happened. Some of the transformation is intentional.
Yes.
Some of it's unintentional, because nature takes its course.
You remind me of Malcolm X as you talk about that. He had a major transformation. He did not intend to go to prison. He ended up in prison, and that change inspired transformation, huge transformation in who he became.
It was a part of his process of evolution. He spent those years there, but when he came out, he wasn't the same.
No.
Nowhere near. And so I call him the greatest transformation that I know in seeing him. Because when he came out, it was about the greater good of the people.
Yes.
It wasn't about Malcolm Little. It wasn't about Malcolm X. It was about the greater good of the people. And obedience to his teachings.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate you so much today, Dr. Jackson.
Thank you.
This was very much needed.
Thank you. It was an honor to be here.
Thank you very much, my brother. Oh yeah, I'm just before I ask the question, because I have a question for you from a last guest.
And the title, by the way, for those who are asking, is right there. If you can see the 4 images, the one is a book cover. That is the title of the book.
Yeah, that's Terry's book there.
And anyone who has appreciated Nduku and wants to buy the book and send it to me, you're welcome to do that. Anyone who appreciates the work that I do and understands that I'm not in a position to afford the book, if you want to send it to me, I will not stop you from doing so. Go on, Oladele.
No worries. Okay, my brother. Thank you very much for what you shared with us today. And we are about transforming minds, basically. You know what? Years ago, when I started doing something like this, my slogan was transforming minds and raising standards. That's basically what I started with. And it's kind of fitting, to what where we are today.
Yes.
So, my brother, when talking about transformational thinking, Africa is on the cusp of a change. There's basically a wind blowing. It's there. But there are those, like you said, we need chaos, we need destabilization. But there are those who are still hanging on. They're hanging on. They will do, because in Nigeria at the moment, there's a plan for like a protest from October 1st. And already they're kind of disrupting the people behind the scene, because they don't want to see the disruption. They don't want to, like you said, they don't want to see the destabilization. So they would do anything to subvert it, to basically call people names and whatever. So, and the disruption is needed, just like Burkina Faso, to get to where we need to get to. So, for those who are hanging on, what advice have you got for those people who don't want to?
Oh man, you read my mind, because I went directly to the book and I went to page 5.
Okay.
And I think I said something about this before, but I'm gonna say this again. So for those who are hanging on, who are comfortable and not quite so sure where they stand, this is a call to arms. It is about finding and implementing solutions, not placing blame or shame for problems. It is a movement that must begin deep within each of us. We must transform our own beliefs, our own thinking, in order to solve the problem that we have created. It is time to expand the parameters of our own perceptions, to tap into our own personal power we possess, and only then, individually and collectively, can we successfully increase the quality of our reality, creating an environment that is conducive for sustainable and collective growth. That is the purpose of transformational thinking. This is a call to arms for the militant group on both sides of racial issues and political issues and religious issues and all those other barriers we have erected between the various segments of the human race. We are the ones who built the walls. It is up to us to expend the power necessary to tear the walls down, to replace them with bridges of trust strong enough to support the truth. So you have to stand for truth if it's transformation that you want. If you don't stand for truth, then it won't happen. It is time for the politicians to put aside their egos, their greed, and getting serious about becoming leaders by earning the right to lead people they represent. We need to be looking at our entire system of government and revise it, truly reflect the needs and the expectations of the society in which they lead. We need to put aside all of our personal challenges for the greater good of the people. That's transformational thinking, and that's what they must do.
You know, you took me back to church, and I have a brother I interviewed that we have the video now on Kumbukeni. He's a Kenyan back. He was arrested last week on Sunday because he was protesting in church. And in Kenya, we have mercenaries posing like policemen. And because in Kenya, the laws are so useless, they can come and arrest you and they don't have to tell you who they are. Over here, they have to tell you, right? They have to show you the badge. They have to report, how did you arrest this person? There's a procedure. And if they follow that and you have a good lawyer, the case is dismissed because they didn't follow that procedure. In Kenya, that doesn't happen because the law is useless, right? We're in a state of anarchy. But the brother, all he wants is he's asking the church, if you're going to allow politicians to come to church and spew their lies, give us, the people, 20 minutes to inform our fellow brothers and sisters of how we should move forward. The thing you just read right now, and please tell us what page it is when I'm done talking, is what needs to be said every Sunday. Like I was like, okay, this needs to be a verse of the Bible that is read to us every Sunday in those 20 minutes that our brother is asking for. Because this is what will make us stop. When we go to church, unfortunately, and we are talked to about the Bible, because it is the same book being repeated for so many years, we become numb to it. And we're just showing up to church, listening to the same thing and going back and going about our day. But if we change what is taught every day based on those teachings, but to relate it to real life, which is what you just read, I believe the people will be more receptive of it. So what page is that?
That is on page, it begins on page 5, and it actually goes to let me see, page 5, and it ends on page 7.
Okay.
And now, yeah, that you've said that, I'm gonna go to page 13, and I'm gonna read this little piece, and I know we have to go, but I want to read this piece here.
But
That's
before
fine.
before you read it, I will also
Yes.
put out a call to action. Before I was joking, I wasn't actually joking, but I said it tongue in cheek that someone should buy me the book. But myself and Oladele are connected with people on the continent, and as I see some of you in the chat, and this is something that it's my duty to say this: if you are a person of means and you can buy these books and you want them to get to people who you don't know on the continent but who would benefit from them, reach out to us. Tell us how many books you want to buy, send them to us, and we will send them to you, and we will give you the confirmation for who they have reached and their thank you notes. So if you want to buy books for people on the continent who cannot afford them, reach out to myself on the Ladele, buy the books, and we will send them to the destination. Thank you, Dr. Jackson.
You're welcome. This last piece I want to read, I think I said it the last time we were together, and it is,
Oh,
it,
brilliant.
yes, is it time we all begin to assume the responsibility for improving our own lives and the world in which we live? Is it time to recognize our differences as a source of increased perception rather than barriers? Is it time we all get off our individual and collective butts and begin contributing and constructing rather than denouncing and destroying? Is it time to come together in a spirit of true communication, truth, cooperation, and coordination? Is it time to build upon our strengths and develop our weaknesses? Is it time we recognize and celebrate the human spirit and tap into the incredible source of unlimited potential, redirecting our energy and efforts toward our constructive and meaningful purposes? Isn't it time for transformational thinking?
Thank you, Terry. Thank you very much for that. Whew. Yeah, I'm gonna clip that. I'm gonna clip that, man. Definitely will do. I'm gonna clip that. Okay, just because of time, I'm gonna go to the question from our last guest. And the question our brother had, who, I don't know if you met him. I don't know if you saw last show, was what's his name now? I can't remember now.
Not
Robin
Brother
Walker.
Small. Okay.
Robin Walker. Robin Walker.
Yes,
Robin Walker.
yes, very familiar with it.
Yeah, we call him the African history man in the UK. His question was, what is the strategy to get the marketers to work with African-centered community where we can sell what we do to the masses of our people?
That is a great question, and I'll tell
And,
you
and
why.
very fitting.
I'll tell you why. My expertise, my education, and my background, and what I did in corporate America, I ran $1 billion division of a company, and it was a marketing company. And so marketing is my skill set. It's not difficult. Again, it's all surrounding the messaging, the narrative that we create. And most importantly, the why. What is the why behind this? I talk about the purpose of this book, the purpose of gathering these business entities together that are promoting humanity and Africanism, if that's a word, for self liberation. You know, in the West, we always complain because we're giving donations or charity to other people, and they complain and say, you hear people say, well, I'm paying taxes and they're not. Why wouldn't you want to help someone liberate themselves? Take that burden off of you. Put that burden on the people who want to liberate themselves. Give them the opportunity. Don't sabotage them, because what often happens is, yes, we want them to liberate themselves, but we also have a plan of sabotage, the economic hitman. That's the sabotage, right? The banks that lend internationally, that's the sabotage, because they know that these countries can't pay back the debt. That's the sabotage. So now it enables me to come in and take over and begin to dictate policy. Give me the real opportunity for liberation and freedom. Help give me the real opportunity to be able to self-organize in the industries that we know we can dominate. Given the minerals in Africa, we know we will dominate the mineral industry hands down. That domination in and of itself will enable us to generate the products and the services that we can market to create wealth for the entire continent of Africa. For instance, I gave a presentation to the ambassador of Liberia in 2011 on aquaponics. Why? Because there was food security issues. They weren't able to come up with the funding to make it happen. And it's simple. It's not anything difficult. I even showed them how they can create a manufacturing plant to put the food and the fruits and the vegetables and products and create a company like Kellogg, but non-GMO, that was all natural and organic, which they could sell across the continent and sell in other parts of the world to generate revenue, which would create jobs, which would improve the economy of the countries in Africa. The powers that be have to understand. So most of the powers that be in Africa have to be removed. It's just that simple. They have to be voted out of office. But to market it, it's not difficult. It's not difficult because we have more melanated people in the world than non-melanated people in the world.
Dr. Jackson, where would you prefer people to go to buy your book?
Oh, you
Have
can go to
have you got a link?
We can go to Amazon.
You're good with Amazon? All right.
Yes,
I wanted to make
it's
sure
on Amazon, and I know with the different countries, you got the different Amazons for the different. You got the Amazon for the UK and the Amazon, but you can go directly to Amazon and purchase the book. You got the ebook as well as
I'll put the link.
the physical book. Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you. Thanks for that question, that answer, Terry. Okay, I need a question for you for our next guest, please, sir. And you'll be surprised the kind of person we're coming up with next one.
But also, we can go a little over because there are a couple of questions in the chat that we did not get to.
I can't see them.
So just look through them as I get the link for the book.
Okay. While we're looking for the questions, Terry, can you give us a question for our next guest, please, sir?
A question for the next guest.
Yeah.
That's a great question. because I don't know who it is, what they specialize in. And
Yeah,
so,
that's the whole
Which
point.
is always the beauty of it, because the question you received today was so fitting for what you just taught us, and it's for some reason they always seem to be fitting.
and I would ask them, what is your purpose for being here?
Mm. Wow. What is your yeah.
Yep. What is your purpose for being here? And if I can add to that, is it an authentic purpose?
Ooh. 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 That's a
And
good one.
because we seem to take words for granted, what do you mean
Yeah.
by authentic?
Well, we've discussed the book Economic Hitman. We understood
Mm-hmm.
that as people as leaders have gone into certain countries, they weren't authentic in their delivering of financing for countries. They had an ulterior motive, and the ulterior motive was ultimately to be able to set policy in that country and potentially dictate the political elections in a country so that they could get the leaders that they wanted in the country so that they could extract what they wanted to extract. Are you seeking to sabotage what we are doing as Al-Bulan awakening? Or are you seeking to further the cause of what we're trying to accomplish? Is your being here authentic, or do you have an ulterior motive?
Okay.
Oladile, I'm gonna do this. And Dr. Terry Jackson, our next guest is John Perkins, the author of The Confessions of the Economic Hitman. So it's ironic that you used him and what he did to explain what you just explained, because I look forward to seeing how he's going to answer this, right? Because right now his career is focused on exposing what they
Yes.
do. So I look forward to how he's going to answer this.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Economical hitman.
That's
John
right.
Perkins Jerry Perkins is coming on here, guys. So just to let you know, side note, we got him. He's confirmed. So he'll be here this time. I think it's gonna be a couple of hours later, which is gonna be 7 p.m. UK time, which is gonna be 2 p.m.
Yes.
EST. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
So
And I will be on as a
I
guest.
was about to say you
I
need
will
to
be
be
on
there
as a
because
guest. Yes, I will be on as a
you
guest.
you felt my spirit calling upon you. Thank you.
Yes, I will be on as a guest. I love to hear him.
okay. On this note, yeah, thank you, Terry, for your time. Really appreciate your time. We thank you for your contributions towards what we're doing. Like Unduku said, we got the virtual conference coming up, so definitely, yeah, we'll put your name down. You're going to be a
Yes.
guest.
Yes.
Also, we're talking about the seed bank, guys. It's a project that we just felt that it's about time we start doing something instead of talking. So, and considering the threat to our indigenous seeds on the continent, it's about time we do something about it. So, yeah, if you want to support us, please reach out to us on LinkedIn and YouTube. Yeah, and on that note, next Sunday, 2 p.m. dear EST, 7 p.m. UK time, we have John Perkins. If you heard about the economical hitman, the man himself is going to come talk to us about what really happens, how they destabilize Africa, how they give us the loans that we cannot pay back. Basically, he's going to go into details. So we're looking forward to that. Once again, everybody, yeah, go on.
And just to be clear, the reason we reached out to him, number one, is because the book is truly informative of the system, but also because you, my brothers and sisters, have a tendency to call us racist when we expose the system, and therefore we want one of them to tell you how they operate, so that you're not coming at us with your racist accusations.
Yeah, good point there. And normally, I will not bring a Caucasian on this platform. But like Unduku said, we need them to tell you exactly what they're doing to us. That's the whole point. So we'll see you soon, guys.
All right.
Have a nice evening.
Right.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Unduku, for being there as always.
Dr. Jackson, please stay back. Do not leave immediately,
Yes.
please.
Yes.
Thanks, guys.